Peter, the Iran-Israel war has certainly escalated over the past 24 hours. Can you please talk us through the latest?
Well, the big picture is that the long-standing Israeli policy towards Iran has been what they call mowing the lawn or mowing the grass or cutting the grass. And that means that knowing that the Iranians have got a long-term plan to develop nuclear weapons and to wipe Israel off the face of the map, which is a publicly stated long-standing goal and main purpose of the Ayatollah's regime. Mowing the grass simply meant going in with the occasional assassination of nuclear scientists, wiping out particular nuclear capabilities when they got to a critical point, and then withdrawing. But what's happened now is that Netanyahu has decided that mowing the lawn isn't enough, that the lawn is in the process of growing into a jungle, that the jungle has become too dangerous to tolerate, and he's going to uproot the entire jungle and root out the Ayatollahs and their regime. That's the ultimate aim here.
Tehran lights up as Israel makes its move.
Israel's latest attack coming as a news anchor delivered a live report on Iran's state-run TV. This is what's left of Tehran's broadcasting corporation. Reportedly, the strike killed at least 26 people. Over Tel Aviv, sirens sounding as a barrage rains down. Many missiles were intercepted, but the damage is still significant. This, the latest in a series of retaliatory strikes after Israel launched a surprise assault on Friday. It says it was targeting Iran's nuclear program and government facilities.
There are three critical nuclear facilities inside Iran. First is the Natanz complex. It's an underground enrichment complex. The Israelis have hit that pretty hard. We don't know what the damage is. We know that the entrances have been blocked, but we don't know what the underground damage is. Second is Fordow. The Fordow complex is the most impenetrable because it's buried deep beneath a mountain. We don't have complete intelligence publicly. It's at least half a kilometre under the surface of a mountain, multi-layered, where they have centrifuges purifying, intensifying uranium and building nuclear bombs. They've had a crack at that, an initial crack at that. The Israelis don't have the capacity, in all likelihood, to destroy the entire thing. Only the US is thought to have the very heavy 30,000-pound ordnance, which only US bombers can carry, to be able to do that. So that's been described as the be-all and end-all of the nuclear program of the Iranians. Now, that's going to take much more than we've seen so far. And the third installation is one which is under construction, and we don't know how many other installations there are that we don't know about. So this is an unfolding picture. It's the early days, and beyond the nuclear establishment and the nuclear program, Netanyahu has signalled that he is going after the regime and wants the entire regime and the republic to collapse.
So the big question then is, what is America and specifically Donald Trump's role in all of this? As we record this, middle of the day Wednesday Australian time, the US has not been involved in any strikes thus far. What is Trump saying? He's long sworn himself against wars like this. He's also touted himself as the peacemaker. What kind of test is this for Trump? What will he do?
It's a huge test for Trump. Until Thursday last week, he was presiding over negotiations with the Iranians to try to get them to cease and desist their nuclear program, and telling Netanyahu that he did not want an Israeli attack right up until the hour before the attack occurred. So this is a war he didn't want. And as you say, Chris, he sees himself as a peacemaker. He's made no secret that he wants to get a Nobel Peace Prize. He promised to end the war between Ukraine and Russia within 24 hours, 4 and a bit months later. That's raging and has escalated. He promised to fix the Gaza war, no dice. And now, while he's trying to come to a new nuclear arrangement with Iran, a new war has broken out there as well. So that's 3 strikes and you're out. So his peacemaker credentials are looking pretty tatty. Now, what's he going to do with this war underway? He's got conflicting political demands in his own constituency, the MAGA, Republican, national security constituencies in the US. He's got the restrainers and the prioritizers, and that's a big chunk of the MAGA movement, the MAGA policy, military impulse. Their thinking is the US should just simply keep out of the Middle East altogether. It used to be important. We used to need the oil. We don't now. Let it go. Let it rip. Let the Israelis tear the Iranians to pieces and the Iranians do what they can. Then you've got the internationalists and the traditional Republicans who say, no, this is a critical area of the world. We must protect Israel. We must protect our oil access, and we must do what we can to limit the power of the Iranian regime, but without causing a major world war. So these are some of the constraints and the competing interests that he's trying to mediate between. And he doesn't know what to do, because his whole plan was just stop any wars. Beyond that, now that the war is raging, he's showing increased sympathy and support for Netanyahu and Israel, which is an important constituency for the entire US, but also for a lot of the Republicans. But he's not sure whether the US should get involved in striking. He's positioning military assets. He's putting another aircraft carrier into the region. He's putting mid-air refueling aircraft into the region. He's giving the US options to join in the attack on Iran. He's calling on Iran for unconditional surrender. And yet he's hoping for a quick end and a limit to the bloodshed. That is not what Netanyahu intends. Who's going to win? Well, so far Netanyahu is winning this argument. What does Trump do? On the other hand, another pressure on him in favour of trying to protect Iran is Russia. So Russia is the traditional sponsor of the Iranian regime. It's only important great power supporter. And Vladimir Putin has been vocally condemning the Israeli attack, supporting Iran, and on the phone to Trump saying, you've got to stop the fighting, you've got to protect Iran, and hell, can I do anything to help?
Well, let me ask you more about this, because Trump has been pretty clear about his feelings about Vladimir Putin, but he's far from a fair and objective referee in all of this, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yes. He's absolutely, he's got a dog in the fight, and that dog is Iran, and he wants that dog either to be, if it's in a losing position, left alone, or if it's in a strong position, he wants it to thrive. It's the biggest entree point that Russia has into the Middle East at the moment. It did have Syria, but Bashar al-Assad is now gone in recent months. So now there's only Iran. Iran has been important to Russia for many years. Russia has given it air defense systems, has given it missiles. In return, the Iranians, during this war that Putin's having with the Ukrainians, Iran has been shipping tens of thousands of drones, which the Russians have been using to attack Ukraine. They put payloads of explosives on them. The Iranians have even built a factory in Russia so that Russia can make its own drones for the war. And in return, we suspect but don't have definitive proof that the Russians have been helping the Iranians with their nuclear development. Now, we all know that Donald Trump has long had a soft spot for Vladimir Putin. Now Vladimir Putin's saying to him, look, you know, you're siding with the Israelis, but listen, mate, you know, it's better that this war doesn't occur at all. You've promised to bring peace, and let me, Vladimir Putin, come in and help you as an honest broker in this situation. And Donald Trump, because of his long relationship and uncanny and bizarre and inexplicable relationship with Putin, and the way Putin seems to have a Rasputin-like mystical influence over Trump, Trump has said, "Oh well, you want to be a peace mediator? I'm open to that idea." And Trump has said publicly, "Putin's ready to do it, and I'm open to it." Now, if he brings Putin in to do what he couldn't, which was to mediate some sort of peace, that would be a first. There's never been a case where a US president has delegated or outsourced or subcontracted to a traditional American enemy the mediation or negotiation over a critical American national interest, which in this case is the Middle East. And yet Trump seems to be on the threshold, on the brink of allowing exactly that to happen.
So why then, if it's unprecedented that America has never outsourced this kind of diplomacy, and that, as you wrote, Putin may or may not, probably may not serve Trump's interests above his own, why the leap of faith?
Yes. It is truly bizarre. It is truly inexplicable. Only Trump would do that. Is it because he's naive about Putin's intentions? We don't know. Does he have some sort of long-running bromance with Putin? Absolutely, he does. We know that even when Trump was out of power, the two of them, Putin and Trump, held phone calls, long phone calls, at least 7 times, when Trump wasn't even in a position of power. And as soon as Trump is in power, he does everything he can to gratify the interests of Russia and Putin. In fact, in his time in this term, I've talked to experts like Peter Tesh, who was a long-serving Australian diplomat and military strategist, former ambassador to Moscow. He hasn't been able to identify a single Russian interest that has suffered in any way from the Trump presidency. For example, all the rest of the world gets hit with tariffs, Trump's tariffs. Russia got an exemption. There's no good explanation for this, Chris.
This is another good example of this kind of gushing relationship between Trump and Putin. He softened pressure on Putin when it comes to Ukraine. He was even complaining about sanctions being too expensive at the dinner at G7 before he had to rush back. And now the Middle East is there conveniently for Putin, yet another distraction.
Yeah. And at that G7 meeting, Trump's first and major point of impact was to complain, why isn't Vladimir Putin here? Why isn't my friend Vladimir here? This is terrible. He won't talk to anyone but me, and he should be here.
The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war.
This is, again, showing that he puts Vladimir Putin's interests ahead of his traditional allies in the G7. The Brits, the Europeans, the Canadians. Trump puts Putin ahead of them. It really is remarkable, and the rest of them just shrug and hope it'll just fade away. And so, yeah, as long as Trump is now consumed by the war between Israel and Iran, he's not paying any attention, no attempt to mediate over the Ukraine-Russia war. And honestly, it looks as if he's walked away from trying to solve that. He demanded that both sides agree to a 30-day ceasefire. Zelensky agreed to the ceasefire on the spot. Putin did not. And Trump has huffed and puffed and threatened to put sanctions on Russia as a result, but he hasn't carried through. He's put no pressure, zero pressure on Putin. And it looks like Putin now just gets what he wants in the war against Ukraine.
I mean, indeed, you've written that Trump has all but handed Putin a spot in his administration. What does this ever-increasing coziness, I suppose, between these two superpowers, what does it mean for foreign policy?
So Trump has gutted the National Security Council in his White House of expertise, but instead his primary source of advice on national affairs, national strategy and war and peace seems to be Putin. So I thought maybe he could be nominated as the de facto national security advisor of the US. From Russia with love, Vladimir Putin. What it means for foreign policy broadly and in particular for Australia is that no country can be sure that the traditional US interests and relationships will take precedence over Vladimir Putin's. That puts an extra element of risk into any dealing that other countries have with the US now. In the case of Australia, we're a country that's still trying to work out what relationship this country can continue to have with Donald Trump. It's very uncertain. But the clearer picture that we get of his relationship with Putin tells us that we cannot trust that he will only have US and Australian interests at heart in any dealings. That if there's a Putin input, It could affect US policy on Australia, on the alliance. And this is obviously deeply troubling because Putin has nothing but enmity and ill will towards Australian interests. This is a big new risk factor in our relationship with the US.
Peter, this is fast moving. It's certainly complex. So really appreciate your time and for walking us through this.
Absolute pleasure, Chris.